And I know he hit the long list of thank yous, but I just want to give one more shout out to the Base Course Committee. They started planning this event about 2 months after the last event commenced. So, and it is a year-round planning, and then they have to deal with people like myself who gives them the slide deck yesterday around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, again, big round of applause to Base Course. Really appreciate all that you guys do. I will say CDOT people are not professional event planners, but we are. Region 4 is, we do it every year and we step it up better and better every single year. So thank you guys. Also, thank you, big shout out to the presenters. I'm gonna ask all of you guys who are in the audience, you know, no laptops. You guys have, you know, you work every other day of the year behind your laptop. Let's not do it today. I know we might have some crucial meetings or something we need to take. Do it in the hallway, get on your phones in the hallway. We did build in plenty of breaks. It takes a lot of courage and time to put together a really good technical presentation for you guys. I'm always impressed every year. We seem to step it up. And for some of you consultants, I know you attended some others, like Region 2 just got done with their base course training. I think we've been a really good model for the rest of the state to sort of emulate what we're doing here. And I just, again, I couldn't be more proud to lead this group, to lead all of you. Region 4 is the best. We will continue to be the best, but I'm glad we're sharing that sort of institutional knowledge with the rest of our teammates across the state because I want CDOT to be the best. So I'm going to go ahead and get started in my presentation. If you haven't been to the World-Class Mobility Hub, this is the pictures that I have of the Centera Loveland Mobility Hub, please make sure you go there. I'm not talking about it today in my presentation, but I did want to show those pictures. It looks like a urban city subway station. So if you haven't been, make your next trip to Denver on bus staying because it is really cool. Huge shout out to the team. This project is also the WTS Innovative Project of the Year as well. So the design started in 2018, but we are officially open in 2024. So be proud of it because it came right here out of Region 4, and I will say there's a number of you, probably hundreds of you, that probably put your fingerprint one way or another on this project, so you should take some credit for that. Okay, want to give a shout out to some of the great work. I cannot hit every project, but I do want to highlight each residency and a great project that was worked on this year. Then looking ahead, I want to hit on some of the governor's wigs. PD 14 and our 2050 planning because, you know, I think a lot of you, specifically maybe you younger engineers or consultants, like how do these projects even come about? When do they get on a list? How do they get funded? Hit on that a little bit. And then I want to talk about sort of where we are today and the things that are important today, as well as sort of our changing environment. And then the focus for 2025. Last year I left you with some challenges. I'm going to do the same thing this year. So, as it relates to our 10-year plan, these are some statewide statistics, but I know a lot, you know, that's the big hubbub. Don't forget we have our regular programs that we do, our surface treatment, our FASTER program, our bridge program, but on top of it, we did a 10-year plan which included all of our capital improvements, as well as some rural paving. So just from a status standpoint, 100% of all the projects in the first 4 years are either completed or underway. Over 50% of the projects I've already initiated or completed out of that 10-year plan, so that's some good progress for Colorado. And then in 2024 alone, over 40 projects were completed statewide. These rural paving numbers just sort of show in 2023, so not last year, we're still collecting that data, but in 2023, over 800 lane miles of rural paving was completed. Now, the state has 23,000 lane miles, but the fact that we've got 800 done is impressive. You'll see a number that's lower than everyone else, and something that I want to talk about is, why is Region 4's number lower than everyone else? Because, you know, I'm always good for a good competition, and I want to be at the top of the leaderboard in all things. And part of that is because we have the most poor interstate pavement in northern Colorado. We also have the most interstate lane miles in Colorado, and so a lot of our rural paving dollars had to go to our interstates. We also carry the heaviest freight in all of Colorado in northern Colorado. So our pavement designs, where's Steve Heimer? Our pavement designs, because I called him, I said, why can southeast Colorado and southwest Colorado pave so much more than us? And it's because they have a different pavement design, because they're not carrying the heavy loads that we are carrying. So my goal is to continue to increase that number, but those are the challenges that Region 4 faces. So getting into some of the great work that we did, and I will not list everybody's name. I know I missed it, but I'm just trying to hit some really big highlights. So out of the Lyman residency, Rihanna and team. This is I-70. Again, where did some of our 10-year plan project dollars go? They went to I-70. This is a $50 million project. They pivoted really, really fast. This, I think, was originally planned for only to be around a $25 million project. We put it out to bid. Our estimates came in 25% over our engineer's estimate, or 26% over our engineer's estimates. We didn't award the project. Meanwhile, social media blew up. We got all these terrible pictures of how horrible it is to drive into the state of Colorado coming from Kansas. So we found some interstate poor paving from the Transportation Commission and some other surface treatment dollars. We took this from a $26 million project to a $50 million project, basically overnight, put it back out to bid, and those bids came in 0.02%, about $7,000 different than the engineer's estimate on a $50 million bid. So great job to the team, great job to the community. This is currently under construction. We did an in-house design, and we had a lot of support from the construction staff. So big win to the citizens of Colorado, as well as all those tourists that really don't like coming into Colorado to drive our roads. Next project, moving up into the mountains, good old Nederland. Talk about a community that is really tiny, that does not have much of a capital program to improve any sort of pavement or multimodal components in their community. But everyone, I mean, how many of you ski at Eldora, right? Yeah. Well, I know there's got to be more skiers than that. Come on, get your hands up. We wear and tear their roadway. We drive right through their community. We might buy a coffee at the little train station. Other than that, we just beat up their roads. So this is a project that was done out of the Boulder residency. It was a great partnership that we actually did with maintenance as well. We tore up their community for that construction, and we got no complaints. They were so happy to see us there. Our maintenance did the clearing and grubbing. This was another project where we got some really high bids. We had to pull it back. We figured out a different way to re-advertise that package. We partnered with maintenance, and we got her done. So great job to the team. I think this project goes a really long way for a really small community. Another project here in our Boulder residency, many of you guys have heard us talk about 119, but I think some of the highlights that I want to hit on is, Boulder County invoked their 1041 process, which is a pretty arduous process. Our environmental staff, along with consultant partnership, got through that 1041 with flying colors, I will say. There was all this hubbub and fear that it was going to delay our project. It did not. We broke ground as, when we planned to. We broke ground this September. And Boulder County, they are not, you talk about people who have something to say about every step you make in that community, right? Right out of the gate, we dealt with prairie dogs. Everyone, you would have thought you had ran over, well, I'm not even going to say, because that's a terrible story, but you would have thought, you took their firstborn because we were doing construction near prairie dogs. And this project team has done a fantastic job mitigating all the challenges. They have over 1,300 people signed up for all of their public announcements. And they continue to mitigate every single day. What you can see is some progress here on the commuter bikeway and the box culvert. So big shout out. They're also dealing with over 500,000 gallons of contaminated soil. How Boulder County have contaminated soil? You'd think it would be all perfect, environmentally clean, but it is not. There's some dirty water in Boulder County, and we're, dragging it all out of there and getting it clean. So these guys have been up against some really good challenges, but they've done a fantastic job. So this is a big highlight. CMGC project, first one out of the Boulder residency, and they're doing a fantastic job. So moving up north, again, our poor interstate pavement. We're going to talk a lot about our poor interstate pavement, but this was a project, again, where they had to pivot really quickly. We got money for poor interstate paving, and it was how quickly can you get those numbers changed on our federal, right? Our feds drive our interstates every other year. We were breaching that benchmark of 5% poor. If we hit over 5% poor on our interstates, FHWA gets to come back and tell us how to spend our surface treatment dollars. So we were scrambling to try to get those ratings to go from poor to good or poor to fair as quickly as possible. This team put this package out. They did it in-house. They partnered with our maintenance again. We shared a batch plant on our maintenance site. Maintenance helped pace cars through our work zone, so they were pacing. I'll just say, I am really impressed with the partnership that engineering and maintenance has formed. We're pretty fortunate to have all of this skill set at our fingertips, and I don't know if we've always leveraged it in the past. We are doing it more and more every single year, and I want to see more of it, and that's going to be one of my challenges that I talk about. So again, great project. They cut the schedule down right out of the gate on a project first from 300 days to 225 days. So huge win, huge shout out to the project team. Again, back up in our mountains, and the beauty of Northern Colorado and Region 4 is that we get everything from the plains to the mountains. We get to deal with all terrain, all things. This is Cameron Pass, really on the way up and over to Steamboat. I can tell you it's not easy to find asphalt up on these mountain corridors, nor are there ideal times to do the paving. I heard nothing on this project. And I heard nothing because this project ran so seamlessly, right? So seamlessly. There was no issues. It's a gorgeous job, right? We did some training on there. We had some great leadership from past employees, really doing fantastic work. The only concern that we had was an issue about maybe one of the contractors had hit a dog on the other side, and somebody was very irate, and the team handled it so professionally. It went all the way up to the governor's office and back down through the appropriate chains, and when I reached out to the project team, they had all the documentation. And yes, this individual was obviously very distraught with the loss of his dog, but there was no correlation with the project team and unfortunately the loss of his dog. So great work up here. Look at that gorgeous road. So if you haven't been up Cameron Pass, go drive it because it's fantastic. Okay, moving our way out east, out in Sterling. This is CO 71. Again, you can see some of the differences there in the pavement condition. Can't say enough about the Sterling residency. They do a lot of work in-house. Not only do they design it, but then they head out to construction and build it. But this was a challenging project. It had some really soft soils that they had to deal with. They also did some very, I would say, analytical analysis about the incidents that they were having and sort of the run off the road fatalities, really looking into the safety data, leaned into that, talked with Katrina, got some additional money from the Faster Safety Program, and was able to flatten out a lot of those slopes for those run off the roads. And that is the kind of work, there'll be a theme here, definitely hit Katrina's FHWA countermeasures, but it's some of the things that I want to be hitting on, and then our chief engineer are going to hit on it, is how can we continue to look at safety through our project lens and make a difference, right? There's things that we do to build to standard that we assume is going to make our roads safer. How can we measure it? How can we quantify the benefit so we know when we are making that investment that we're actually going to give that benefit? So this is one of those projects. They had a number of challenges with those soft soils, but working with the contractor, they were able to rebound really quickly and yielded a really, really nice project, but you can see those nice wide slopes there. Out in our Greeley residency, this project actually came out of 2 years ago base course when we had CSP up here talking about ways to improve safety on our corridor. And they talked about the lack of enforcement areas. This was a project that we were already going to resurface, but we decided to add some money to it, to add shoulders, and then add these pull-out areas. So I'm pinging Rich Christie's performance-based design session tomorrow that talks about, and I will say we were kind of ahead of the curve. Before really being trained on what performance-based design was, we were already thinking that way. This is an outcome of that project. But this is a huge benefit to the community of Hudson. Our team did this in partnership with some consultants, but we have only heard great things from that community. And we've already seen the numbers improve as it relates to traffic-related incidents and then their ability to monitor speeds. One question I always get from various people is, why isn't there more law enforcement out on the interstate? People are flying, especially now with those express lanes. Yep, they are. But you know what CSP tells us? They say, well, we put our enforcement where we are losing lives. People aren't losing lives on I-25. Now, don't get the idea that means you can speed home, okay? But they're not losing lives on the interstate. They're losing lives on our rural roadways, right? That's where they're putting their enforcement. And so by us being able to provide areas like this, enforcement areas, allows them to do their job and ultimately save lives. And that's what we're all about. Another great project out of our Greeley residency, we did some in-house design as well as partnership with the consultant community here. And 71, low volume road, but a heavy freight corridor. And what we hear about this, and this is one of our ports to plains sort of, did I get that right? Heartland Express area roadways. We don't have shoulders, we don't have passing lanes, right? And so this project went out and put in 3 different passing lanes and a couple of climbing lanes to really improve the safety on this corridor. And as you can see, that center line rumble strip to protect our drivers. These are all, quote unquote, FHWA countermeasures proven to save lives. So thank you on this project. This is a big win for us. Want to highlight, some of the work our design and hydraulics units have done. Our hydraulic unit, they touch every single project. Our design unit, they don't touch every single project, but I can tell you they got their fingers in the pot on a lot. And so a couple of the projects that they're currently working on in the design unit is CO7. You talk about a roadway that needs an overlay. CO7 is rough. So we did some in-house design on CO7. Again, right there in Boulder County. I can tell you the calls don't stop. I hear about how terrible the roads are in CO7. So this is going to go a really long way. Additionally, our design unit is currently working on the recent grant award that we got on 287. Fingers crossed the new administration secures those dollars for us, because we do not have that yet signed. But this, again, is that median barrier project. They are doing the design for that. And then, of course, as with every project seems to cross a floodplain. And so our hydraulics unit is really working to help resolve and solve some of those floodplain issues to make these projects a reality. Because I can tell you, floodplains are a pain. And I've even told my team, if we got to deal with a floodplain, pick another project. We got more needs. We've got more needs in this state than we have dollars to solve the problem. And so if we're going to pick projects with complex environmental and drainage issues, I'd rather just go pick a different project. But thanks to Brian and his unit, they're helping us through some of the floodplain management there in Boulder County. So big win. And they're also running our critical culvert program. So great work out of the hydraulics unit. So traffic, going to our traffic and safety unit. They don't have as big as budgets. They don't see the big dollars that our residencies see, but they do really, I would call them dollar-wise, small projects, but that have a really big impact. And so this is one of those projects it was out of the Longmont Bike Ped Safety Program. They took a number of intersections and looked at how can we improve the operations and the bicycle and pedestrian safety of these intersections. So Kyle Ralston was the PM on this. And this is just sort of a schematic of some of the improvements, but these smaller jobs, just operational timing improvements, as well as some of the ADA and I think this one makes a continuous bicycle lane and striping. Really, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised how far we can go with just a little bit of striping to improve the safety of these routes. And I challenge you all that because I am an engineer as well that likes to say, let me have fun with En-ROADS and let me model something really fantastic and do some like cool flyovers. Also, you guys, we can do something really simple. We need to really just take a look at what's on the ground. Do we need to like change the reflectivity of some signs? Do we need to do a refresh of the striping? Can we utilize the footprint that's already there to make an improvement for how people are using the roadway today? And that's what I will say our traffic unit does a fantastic job of. So shout out to you guys on this project. Here's another one. For those of you guys that are familiar with this area, that this is I-25. I don't know if I have a pointer. I feel like I do, but interstate. We got Mulberry and we have Prospect. But a new high school right there, Temneth High School just went in. We do a signal prioritization study. We have enough money every year to build a signal every other year. That's how much signal money we get, right? Do you know how many people come to us wanting a new signal all the time? So it takes a lot of work to try to figure out where should we spend those dollars. Well, this is honestly where we're going to spend it, right here at Larimer County Road 5 and State Highway 14. This was an in-house design. And then I know that they're gonna, Caitlin's gonna be doing some of the signal timing. So great learning opportunity for our younger engineers. But this, there was a public outcry for improved safety when you got a bunch of high schoolers going to school. I've got a high schooler in the room. I promise you, they are not the best drivers. And so any way we can improve the safety of those high schoolers and providing a signal for them so they can enter and exit their school goes a long way, because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one with a high schooler or soon to be have a high school kid that's driving. And as a parent, it's pretty nerve-wracking. And so anything we can do, and I implore you all to think about that when you're designing your highways. Don't be designing it for the great driver that you are. Be designing it for that 15-year-old that you're getting a permit with, and you're hoping that they did the 40-hour lessons on the rules of the road, but then can actually do the driving. I do implore you all to think through that set of lenses as we drive our highways, and design our highways, I should say. All right, so I think last project here that I want to highlight, and I'm not going to go into all the great work of I-25. I know we talk a lot about I-25. It is our biggest, corridor project that we have in the region. But segment 5 is under construction. I'm sure many of you drove through that this morning. But just a few fun stats. They got NTP in September of 2023, so they've been at it for about 16 months. They are 80% of the way completed with design. They're 40% of the way completed with construction, and 27 of 29 parcels have already been acquired for right-of-way. They've been at it for 16 months. That's a big win for segment 5. Because I think the general rule of thumb is right-of-way is 18 months, right? So they took some unique strategies. Love to talk about that at another time. But what I really want to highlight is honestly the safety. So I've got a couple slides to talk about I-25 and regarding the safety. So when we did the EIS for I-25, basically I know we said we're going to build it to standard. And thank God our standards improve safety, right? But we never quantified it. We never said, we predict if we build 12-foot shoulders and 10-foot inside shoulders, we're going to reduce accidents by X percentage. We never did it. I want to start doing it on our projects. In fact, I think FHWA is going to start making us do it. We want to be predicting what sort of accidents we're going to reduce. Abra and team have started calculating what are the benefits of 6, 7, and 8. Well, you can see from where we were in 2018 to where we are now completed in 2024, we have reduced accidents over 50% on the I-25 corridor. And yes, people are probably driving faster, but we have greatly improved the safety of that corridor, and that's a big win. So, and I'm pretty sure most of you touched I-25, so you should give yourselves a pat on the back for that. The other thing that, that the table that I didn't show, because I had Abra cut it out, was all those years between 2019 and 2023 that we were under construction. Because what did we see under construction? Accidents went up a little bit. We were in some work zones, we had some tight conditions, right? We were barrier on either side. We had secondary accidents because people don't have their head out of their phone, right? They're not paying attention, they cause one accident, that creates a second accident, and then a third accident. So we said, what can we do differently on segment 5, because we're gonna be in the same situation. We're getting sort of barrier to barrier situations out on segment 5, an outcry from the community. It's so dangerous, what can you do? So I challenged the team, and they really embraced it. So they kind of outlined sort of what they're up against. And the other issue is, segment 5 is the last 2-lane section on the I-25 corridor. So inherently, you got 3 lanes coming in, 3 lanes coming out, each direction. It's gonna cause a bottleneck. People are going to not drive very well, and there will be accidents. So they did a study, and they started looking at the data. So they're working directly with Daniel Thomas every time that, and CSP, because usually accident data has got a year lag. No, they're working in it in real time, and they're looking at the cause of those accidents. And what they found, right, driver behavior. So, right, and DUI, it's pretty low at 5%. Following too close, 30%. Careless driving, 50% of the people are not paying attention to what they're doing. So what can we do about it? So the team took some proactive measures, right? They did some media impressions, public outreach, some campaigning. You've probably seen it on the VMS boards if you guys have been doing it. If you listen to the radio, if you're not on Spotify or something like that, you've heard some public announcements from CDOT. That's a big one. To try to notify people, hey, pay attention to how you're driving. They also work directly with CSP and say, how can we make this work zone safer? How can we get to those incidents faster? And so they upped that buffer offset from 2 feet to 3 feet. They've got some very specific pull-out zones, so if an incident occurs, right, they know where to push cars over to. And then they worked with the contractor on where can we move this barrier quickly. When an accident occurs, we can get in there and solve the problem. So again, they're doing this real time, and I challenge all of you guys to think about this. How can you make your work zones safer? Because our projects may be improving the safety of the corridor. We gotta be doing it the whole way, from start to finish. And then the last thing is speed safety cameras. This is one of our WIGs. The chief engineers will hit on this, but we are going to be adding speed enforcement cameras. Be ready, folks. You will get a VMS board, but there will be cameras, no longer police out there, and you will get a ticket if you speed in that work zone. So be paying attention. Those are coming here in May. So as well as on 119, so watch what you're doing out there. All right, and then lastly, I just want to hit on some of the other great work our GIS team and our environmental unit is doing. We are always leaning into data and how we can use our data better. But if you guys haven't gotten in there, I mean, I'm just really impressed. We are now using GIS to help our maintenance forces. I think I'm intending to grow that a lot this year. Our planning tool, I'm in it weekly. I don't know about you all, but you guys should be using it. There's so much data at our fingertips. So big shout out to the environmental unit. In fact, I am going to be hiring a specific person for GIS to actually support all of these efforts, maintenance, engineering, and environmental. I just got to get in the FTE request. So if you know anyone great, I will be putting out a PDQ to hire someone. So, all right, so let's look forward really quick, and I'm going to go through these semi-quick. Our wildly important goals, these are the goals that we set with the governor's office. Where does the Department of Transportation want to head? Well, some of these are very similar. We want to continue to advance transportation safety. I'm going to let the chief hit on that this afternoon. Clean transportation, so really still focused on greenhouse gases, and then an increase in statewide transit. So some of those strategies include Increasing local law enforcement hours, that's through a partnership, right? We don't control that, but we are partnering with them, but we are already doing it on segment 5. Increase the number of speed safety cameras. Oh, we're already doing it. Segment 5, 119. There's $6 million in safety enhancements for, I think, vulnerable road users. We are working through that program right now with Katrina. That came out of one of the legislative bills. And then increase our paid media impressions. We are already doing that. But again, those are some of our targeted goals to improve transportation safety. So clean transportation. And what I want you guys to just kind of lean into is look at some of the strategies here that we have for clean transportation. Now, I don't know if you all knew, but there was an election that just happened. And there was maybe a change in administration. Well, a lot of our funding is based on what we get from the federal funds and where the federal dollars are headed and what their focus areas. So we're in a unique transitional time here because we still have, these are our wildly important goals, right? Where we're increasing the number of fast charging stations. We want to basically electrify our scenic byways. We want to increase the number of zero emission buses. We want to increase the number of grants that we get from the NEVI program. Does the NEVI program still exist out there? I don't know. And we want to increase e-mobility education awareness. And then the last one is we want to increase the expenditure of transportation programs for multimodal. I'm pretty sure we can hit on that last one. I think the front 5, we're going to see, right? That's just part of my conversation of what does today look like, because we are in a time of transition. So there are a lot of vision. They set out a lot more strategies in this wildly important goal. And I think some of this will be able to be accomplished because we did pass some legislative bills that had funding to accomplish some of these. And this is not just do it alone CDOT. This is in partnership with all of the state agencies. If you look at the last one, ensuring 52% of the new housing is built in transportation-oriented developments. We don't get to control that. We don't control land use. But I can tell you I'm working really closely with the city of Greeley, and that's one of the discussions, right? As we go through some of this planning efforts, are we helping influence and talking about how land use is served and being done? This is, we got our work cut out for us here on this one. Statewide transit. We want to increase the percentage of bus trips, increase the number of mobility hubs. Oh, check, we just finished them up here in northern Colorado, so good job, everyone, for I-25. Increase the frequency of bus staying, and then they're working on the transit connection study. I won't hit on that, but I think Jan's got something that he's going to be talking about in one of our sessions on that. I put this up here just for you guys to see sort of our increased bus staying ridership. As you can tell, there was a lull during COVID, but ridership is coming back on transit, which is good. But some of these WIGs and some of these governor's goals do not just include the travel and the trips on bus staying, but actually all of transit. So RTD, COLT, transport, et cetera. But a big push. But for those of you guys who didn't know it, we have basically doubled down on our number of rides or number of trips we're offering on the I-25 corridors as well as the mountain corridors. A couple other focus areas, and I'm not going to hit on this one right now because I think I'm going to run short on time. But Front Range Passenger Rail has been the big hubbub. Again, this runs from Pueblo to Fort Collins. They did pass a legislative bill, Senate Bill 24-184, that basically identified some state funding. The intent for that state funding was to go match federal grants that we're pushing for passenger rail. Time of transition, I don't know. We will see. I'll ask you guys just to always keep your sort of ear to the ground. And that'll be one of my talking points, is making sure that we're communicating. But this is still really being worked on and being pursued. I know we want a CRISI grant here. For those of you guys who didn't know, the first section of passenger rail that is planned to be built is from Denver to Boulder to Fort Collins, so right here in northern Colorado, and I've got teams already working on 2 of those sort of grade separations on the BNSF corridor. And then mountain rail. Mountain rail is another big focus of our state goals, and that is a train that runs from Denver through the Moffett Tunnel to Winter Park. That train already exists, but they want to extend it all the way up to Craig. So I don't have a lot of details on this, but again, these are 2 big efforts as it relates to transit and in transportation, and I will tell you they are our big governor's goals. So the last thing is here, not only do we take our rigs, but then we pare it down into our transportation plan goals. So we are in a planning cycle right now, the 2050 plan. That's what our planning unit is working on. They're working with all of our TPRs. They're trying to say, looking out over the next 20 years, what projects do you want on the list? As it relates to CDOT specifically, we have 3 things that we're going to be looking for. So when we do an update to the 10-year plan, we're going to be looking at what are projects that improve our safety, what are projects that address our pavement condition, because I think everyone's tired of seeing, Instagram pics and Facebook pics of our terrible pavement out there, right? And then of course we want to sustainably increase transportation choice, so back to that transit and sort of the EV stuff. So again, the statewide plan is being kicked off right now. It's a 25-year visioning guide. How do we use that? We work with those TPRs. They identify their needs over the next 25 years. Then when we start to prioritize projects in our 10-year plan, we pull from those visions, right? And we will look at that criteria in PD14 and say, do any of these projects meet that criteria? If so, they're going to rise to the top. And then they will ultimately, with our very small fiscal constraint, they will get funded on our plan. But this is something that I know our planning unit has been doing a fantastic job really working with our stakeholders to sort of improve and talk about how to select projects and prioritize projects and define them in a more cohesive way in these 2050 plans. All right, so I want to just transition to, well, all right, a lot of good information. We looked back. We're kicking ass because we just do, right? You kind of see where the governor wants to take the state, right? I mean, we do all work for Governor Polis. If you didn't realize that, that is your big boss. And so the goals that they set, we need to follow. We need to try to accomplish. So here we are today. And what are some of the things that are still really important to us? One is accountability and transparency. So that 10-year plan, and this is I'm imploring again to you guys, the importance. I think for 10 years I've been beating the significance and the importance of your data and your accuracy of reporting data, because we use it for everything, right? So if you haven't thought about taking the PM Web or project management class that Keith and Elena are doing, please do it, because all of the information for this accountability and transparency dashboard is pulled straight out of PM Web. This gets updated every month, and it sits on the public-facing website, so anyone can go get this. And I can tell you, every time our executive management has a meeting with the legislation, they ask information, they want project-specific details, and we have to send them to this, and if the information's not current, that creates all of the noise and extra fire drills for us. But it is really important that we are accurately reporting that data and keeping it current. I can't say it enough. I mean, if you take away a couple things from today, it's report your data accurately and think about safety. 2 things. Like, do those 2 things and we will continue to be successful. I always do this just to talk a little bit about how are we performing as it relates to the state. You guys, we're still doing a fantastic job. We are doing a really good job of managing our budgets, right? This is our construction engineering. What does it cost us to perform the construction management on all of our construction projects? As you can see, the trend line, we are continuing to drive that percentage down. If for those of you who didn't know, I think you should know, but if it's new news to you, we got rid of the CE pool, right? And we are now direct to project. So more than ever, right? You guys need to be really understanding your budgets, tracking your budgets, and managing them. I don't think construction management should cost us much more than 10% on any project. I doubt it'll ever be at 5 or 6% because I don't think we would be overseeing anything. But when I see, CE's rates that are upwards of 30%, I wonder, was that a really complex job and did we require all those people, or did we have a lot of people sitting around, maybe we had a lot of redundancy. So this is really just a shout out to all of you guys. Thank you. I don't set the budgets, you guys do, and you continue to hit the targets that we set. So thanks for doing a great job on your construction engineering. This is a nice, really busy slide, but really just to show the history of the work that continues to get done out of Region 4. We are right over there. I still don't know which pointer mine. Hesitate to do it. But last year was not as big of a year for contractor payments, about $185 million. But considering how we did statewide, we were pretty much right there at the top, other than Region 3, and I think all of you guys know why Region 3 spent so much. They had their little emergency project on US 50. That was quite a heavy lift, and a big shout out to the teams that worked on that. That was about $100 million worth of work that they did in about 6 months to repair that steel bridge. So that is one of the reasons why they're way off the charts as it relates to contractor expenditures. But next year, right here in Region 4, we're planning to spend about another $243 million in contracted expenditures. Guys, that's a lot of work. So you guys are doing awesome. So I'm not going to touch too much on this because I don't feel like, I know I hit on our Region 4 goals. You guys, these are tried and true goals. We have remained constant and steady. Our goals do not go with the ebbs and flows of the changing administrations and the departments. They haven't changed. And I think we're continuing to do a really good job, right? Continuing to be that center of excellence. We continue to push each other. We've got so many leaders, so many up-and-coming leaders. We're winning innovation awards, for the region, but also even at the state level, we are winning those innovation awards. And I think that's because we implore that creativity across each other. We give everybody that opportunity to have a voice, and we really want to share, knowledge is power, but we're not trying to hold on to the power. We're trying to share it and build our whole team and change that culture. So we continue to be a great center of excellence. Based on those residency highlights, we have, we're doing strategic execution. I can tell you all of our meetings that we're having, like on the 34 corridor and on the Mulberry corridor, and all the partnerships that we're working on, we're being smart about those dollars that we're spending. Our GIS is off the charts for data and technology, and again, we cannot do it without our partnerships. Civ's here from FHWA. Our partnerships with FHWA, with our locals, you guys, we do not get transportation done if it wasn't for those. So my last few words of, advice and sort of the challenge is, I had a few of these last year. I think I kept 2, and then I refined a bunch. So I want a safety focus, but what I really want to think about is how can we quantify and measure that benefit? So I'm going to be challenging all of you guys as you're coming forwards with your scoping and your FIR plans. Have you quantified and have you measured that safety benefit, right? You guys, when the CFO speaks, our pie, our dollars are not growing, okay? We are not seeing, and I can tell you we are not growing we're not offsetting inflation at all, which means we're having to do less with less, right? and we have to find a way to be smarter about how we invest those dollars. So, and really it comes down to, we want our roads to be safe for all users. And so I ask you guys to really be thinking about that front and center. Not how cool of a geometric design can I come up with, but I want you thinking about it through the lens, am I actually solving the problem to improve the safety of the people using that facility? I want you to continue to innovate to solve those complex problems, because our problems aren't getting easier to solve. And I can tell you, with this push on multimodal, it is a challenge, because I don't think every road should carry every mode. And so we need to have ways to talk about that and solve that, to know that our administration really wants us to talk about vulnerable road users. That's a pretty small percentage when we have hundreds of thousands of vehicles a day traveling on our roads, freight. We need to have that conversation, and we need to solve those problems, right? How does the pedestrian or the person in a wheelchair interact with that freight vehicle? Are we coming up with the right solutions? So I challenge you guys to continue to innovate. Effectively communicate with your team, supervisor, and partners. You guys, I can't emphasize this enough, especially in this changing environment. Things are changing daily, if not by the minute. So I'm going to ask you guys to continue to communicate with your team on those changes, and then elevate up to your supervisor. There are some times that I am caught a little blindsided, because maybe communication just is moving too quickly and I didn't get to it. So keep those chains of communication up, you guys, with your team, with your consultant team, with your internal team. You know, what I hear a lot from my specialty units is, I didn't know that they were having an FIR. I didn't get invited. You guys, we can do better, right? We're all one big team. It is not that much more effort to make sure that someone is in the know about things that are changing. We got to be nimble, ready to adapt to the changing political climate. You guys, every senior staff meeting I have, it's like, well, what's going to happen with this new administration? Nobody knows yet, right? But we know some executive orders have come out. We know some of the mandates. The EV mandate is like, you know, we're going to stop on that right now. Well, what does that mean for our NEVI program? What does that mean for all of our big goals that we had for deploying all this EV charging? I don't know. Maybe the state will find its own funding. Maybe it's on hold for another 4 years. But I asked you guys, and I'm not trying to make transportation political. I'm just trying to be a realist about where the dollars come from. And the dollars do come from our federal administrations, and it does depend on what the priorities. So I haven't heard what the new administration, what Trump's administration's goals are for infrastructure, but I guarantee he has them. And I guarantee we will find a way to fit right into those goals, because we've got needs, right? And so we will craft the narrative, right, to go chase those dollars, and that's what we need to do. So that comment about being nimble, you guys, let's adapt. We can change, right? I don't care what side of the fence you are on politically. What I care about is that we can go secure those funds so we can make a difference for the people in Colorado, for our traveling public. Because the one thing that's common, we don't have enough money for infrastructure to do the things that we want to do. So, be smart about it, be nimble, and be ready to pivot, because you guys, some of our grants are not locked in yet. I don't know what that means yet, but we are going to be ready to jump when we do know. Again, maximize those funds to provide the best benefit to our users. We've always talked about that. And then the last two, continue to be an excellent teammate. These are my two repeats, right? Think positive intent. I can't emphasize this enough. We are like creatures of habit. We protect ourselves. Something goes wrong, we think the worst. No one in this room, there's no one in this room, in my opinion, that has malice intent. Not one of you. Not one of you, right? But man, we get our head in a space where we're like, someone's out to get us, and then we think the worst thing, and we overreact. Go communicate. If you're concerned that something's not headed the direction you thought it should have headed, go clear it up. But think positive intent of your teammates, you guys. We're stronger together for sure. We're way stronger together. And then be a leader. Every single one of you guys, in my opinion, are leaders. And I said this last year, don't punt, right? Don't just push it off your desk and push it in an email for it to send into the abyss of email inboxes. I am the guilty one who doesn't RSVP to things because it has been buried in, I walk away from my email for maybe 4 hours worth of meetings, and I will come back, and I can tell you on my little scroll of Google, I have more emails than I can even scroll down. I have to hit to the next tab and the next tab. That's how many emails I get in a day, and I know I'm not alone in that. So if something can be solved by a telephone call, pick up the phone and just call them. If it can be solved by walking over their cubicle, go do it. We don't need an email to document every step we took, right? We just don't need to do it. There's not that many crucial decisions that need to be documented. There are some, but a lot of these, you guys, don't punt, be a leader, help solve the problem. And with that, you guys, we continue to kill it. I continue to hear from everyone. It doesn't matter what department, whether it's my grants department, whether it's even the CFO office, whether it's contracts. Yes, believe it or not, I said contracts. They love to work with Region 4. And it's because of all of you. It's the great attitude. It's the culture that we have. They love to work with you guys. So just keep up the great work. Really appreciate all of you guys. Excited about today's base course. And if you don't get a chance to ask me questions now because I'm out of time, I will be around the next 2 days, and we've got a Q&A panel tomorrow, so you can ask all those heavy questions you have for me. All right, that's it. Thank you.